And this is the awkward part where I just make conversation until people show up and tell me that they can hear and see me. So got a lot of folks waiting, so it should be any minute now. There's a delay between when I started on Stream Live and then, or StreamYard, and then when it actually shows up. So those of you watching this part on the replay, I apologize for the boring. So, all right, now people starting to come on. Once everybody gets on, can you please let me know if you can hear and see me okay? Hear and see us, I should say. Jeff says we can hear and see you. Excellent.
Awesome.
Excellent. All right. So we will get started in a minute or two once we get some more folks on, because we as a community are not the most punctual. I don't know why
that's true.
Yeah, absolutely true.
It's one of those things where if we're on time, we want everything else to be on time. But if we're not on time,
we're getting a little bit of static again. So we'll figure it out. Jim says, "What's up, legends?" Jeff says, "Excited for this. Thanks, Chris." Well, thank Gregory. He's the one who took the time out, but I'm always happy to accept praise.
Well, thank you. Thanks for having me. Excited to be here. Still sounds static, by the way.
Yeah.
Interesting. It seems to happen when I keep hitting you when I'm not talking, unmuting, streaming.
It's only when you talk, like, because it's pretty hard to understand you right now. So I don't know if there's something you can do about the feedback, but Richard says, "Hi, Chris and Gregory." Alexis says, "Hello, awesome. This week we're getting treated to 2 webinars. That's bonk." I see what you did there. Nice toys are there. Oh, I guess he's talking about your background there.
Thank you. I'm trying to get this mic situation situated. I don't know why you hear feedback. Are you still hearing it now? I changed a couple of things.
Yeah, it's still a lot of static.
Okay, I'm gonna make it then just go through my iPods instead of the see if that works.
Okay. Jeff says, "Big thanks also to Greg." I apologize for what I did to your name here, but Oinye says, "Hey, bosses." Ahmed, what's up, Ahmed? Hola, top 2 people that showed me how to make money. Awesome. Ahmed's a valuable member of the Legiit team. All the members of the team are valuable, but he is one of them. Jose says, "Hey, what's up, buddy? Good to see you."
All right. How is this? I changed some settings in StreamYard for the Yeti.
Much better.
Okay.
No,
perfect.
That's good.
Yeah, it had some auto feature selected automatically. I turned that off, and now it should be good. Okay, perfect.
Good, because I never get tired of technology telling me what to do.
Exactly, right?
All right, so let's get into it, I suppose. I am here today with Gregory Ortiz. Many of you know who Gregory is, but just to give you some background on how I know Gregory, is I started in SEO I started taking courses in around 2014, and he ended up being a coach in the third one that I took. And I got to know him that way. And then when I started freelancing, he was helpful in promoting my service, which kind of led to me making more services, and then the group, and then kind of got the rock rolling down the hill for me. So that's how I've gotten to know him over the years. And I'll toss it over to you. Why don't you tell us a little bit about where you came from and what you're doing now, and we'll get into it.
Sure. Let me just grab something real quick, because this is important for how I got started. I keep it next to me all the time.
Okay, cool.
And let me just cover up my signature on it. But this right here, this is where I started. Hopefully everyone can see it just fine. This is my Bed Bath & Beyond ID. And for anyone who isn't aware, and if you are aware, sorry if you've heard it a bunch of times ad nauseum, but I'm going to go over it again since Chris asked. I actually used to work as a manager in Bed Bath & Beyond when I first started to learn how to do online marketing. And it was one of those things where I was completely miserable with my job. I hated it completely. I was the guy who had to yell at people for folding towels incorrectly. If you can imagine how painstaking that might be, there are definitely worse jobs out there, obviously. But it wasn't one where I felt like I was being fulfilled. I felt as though all the potential that I had was being wasted, and it wasn't something that I just enjoyed doing. Then on top of it, I had had a son previously, about 2 years before that. He was about 2 years old at the time, and it got to a point where he was learning to do, everything. He was doing, his first walking, first words, first everything, and I wasn't home for most of the firsts, and that really, really sucked for me as a dad because I didn't really have a dad that much growing up. So it was one of those things where it was like, is he going to go through similar things that I went through growing up, or am I going to, change that? And we'll get back to this a little bit later on as well. But it was one of the things where it something clicked in my head where I said I need to do something else. I need to make a change in my life. So therefore, I need to actually make a change in my life. And I stumbled across a group that one that Chris had referenced earlier, and became very friendly with some of the people in there because of the knowledge I had on how to do things online. I've been on computers personally since I was 14 years old, which kind of makes me feel like a dinosaur because I'm 38 now. So for 24 years, I had been on the computer back when AOL used to arrive on little discs at your house all the time for free. So I had been on computers for a while, and it was my passion. It's what I love to do. I loved building websites from scratch way back in the day when you had to code HTML by hand. I was one of those people who used to like to dive into C, Visual C back in the day, and create programs. So computers was my jam, and here I am yelling at people folding towels incorrectly. So because of my skill set that I had outside of my day job, I said, how can I combine what I love, which is this skill, and also combine what I also need to do, which is make more money for my family. And luckily, the stars aligned. I worked very, very hard at it and was able to make that dream become a reality, where I was able to fire my boss essentially and kind of live my own life the way I wanted to. And that's kind of how I got started.
Excellent, excellent. And then you've taken a few different approaches, right? You've done client, you've done affiliate. What do you do now?
Yeah, so nowadays I'm focusing more on client, some affiliate. Back in the day, a lot of my income and time and energy was spent on affiliate marketing, and I still enjoy affiliate. But I've recently decided to spend more time on clients simply because, and Chris, you can speak to this. I'm someone who I enjoy helping other people. I know what it was like for myself working at a job that I hated, which is why I ended up years later on teaching other people how to do what it is that we do. But more than that, it became a thing when the pandemic hit, where I realized like people are losing their businesses, and this is affecting not just them and not their immediate family, but for some people, it's affecting like generations of their family. Some people have had these businesses that have been owned by their grandparents, and it's just been passed down from generation to generation. And for them, it was a thing where it's like, this is their life. This is all they've ever known. So I said, okay, well, how can I help these people the most? So that's what I spent a lot of my time, energy, and effort dedicated on, especially during the pandemic, is helping out the clients I had and helping out other business owners to kind of keep their business afloat. It was a very difficult time for everyone across not just the US, but the entire world. So how can I help people as much as I can to keep their businesses afloat? So most of my time, energy, and effort more recently have been on client more than anything else. But I still have, softwares and a bunch of other things that I have going on at the same time too. But most of my time, energy, and effort is spent more on client than anything else at the moment. But I'm looking to get back into some of the stuff I used to love before, now that things were starting to open, but now they may be closing again. Who knows what's happening, right? But regardless of it, I kind of have grown my agency on the client side, where we can continue to scale without it being a detriment to new clients coming on or current clients that we have, but also being able to kind of expand myself back out to a lot of the things I used to do and love before.
Okay. Where are you at now? Are you in Florida? Are you in New York? Or what?
No, no, I'm actually in New Jersey.
Okay.
I had my house built here a couple of years ago. It's also kind of the main reason why a lot of people kind of haven't seen me much in the past couple of years. It kind of brings me back to when I spoke about earlier about, wanting to be there for my son. I was fortunate where things were going really, really well for me business wise, and I was just enjoying life. I was, eating at the best restaurants and having the most fun I could and partying and just living a crazy life, to be honest with you. And it was a lot of fun, but it became a point where I realized I'm starting to neglect the time that I would be spending with my son, because instead I'm spending it now at the time living in Florida, in Miami, and partying every single day. What about my son? Like the main reason why I got into this was to spend more time with him, was to actually not have to work a day job, was to see him more. And now that I don't have a day job, I'm not spending more time with him. Something didn't click. So it became a thing where I said, okay, I need to go move to New Jersey, which is where he was living with his mother. And, I need to spend more time with him. You know what I mean? I just need to have that connection with him because he's getting older and he's understanding things more and he's asking me more and more questions about us spending time together. And I'm just, in a way, honestly, just being selfish by partying and having a good time. Like, I need to spend more time with him. So, what I did was I had a house built from scratch, not that far around from where he was living. And ever since I've had my house built, I've been here ever since. I don't haven't really spent as much time online as I used to before because honestly, I've just been spending as much time as I can trying to be the best dad that I can be. I have my obviously certain and specific days where I have my son because obviously me and his mother are no longer together, haven't been for years. But it's great where one day after school he can just call me and say, "Hey, Dad, can you come get me and let's hang out?" I'm like, "Okay, fine. I'm there in 5 minutes." I can't put a price on that. So for me, all my time, energy, and effort, more than anything else, has been spent on just being the best dad that I can be, being there for everything that he needs, and kind of doing all the experiences with him that I wanted to do as a kid with a father, but wasn't able to do, and being able to do it with him. So I kind of just been spending most of my time, energy, and effort on that.
How old is he now?
He's 10. He just turned 10 in April. It's funny, his birthday is the day right after mine. So I always joke he's
Oh,
the
cool.
best birthday present I ever had. Yeah.
That's awesome. That's
Yeah.
awesome. So this is a bit hippy dippy, but do you find
Sure.
the more that you help other people, the more things work out for you?
Yeah, it's one of those things, just like you said, it's kind of hippy dippy, and you'll hear people say it. And at first, when I used to hear it, I'd be like, oh, that's some like, kumbaya bullshit that people say.
Yeah.
But it's one of those things where it's absolutely true. I've had more connections with people, and I'm not saying like friendship connections, because I definitely have, but way more business connections with people by helping them in the first place. Like I firmly believe that the phrase "your net worth is your network" to the fullest. I don't believe anything else probably more than I believe that when it comes to business. And it's one of those things where the more likely someone is to bring business to you is either A, you're friends with them, or B, you've helped them. And most of the time it's both.
Mhm.
So I don't become friends with people and I didn't help people, in hopes of getting more business or anything else
Right.
like that. It just worked out to be that way. It became a thing where people realized, hey, this is a nice guy. He's actually trying to help people. Let me see what I can do to help him back. Like maybe I have this friend who's interested in growing their business and I don't have the skill set to do it, but let me touch base with Gregory and see if he can do it because he's helped me. Let me help him. And it's become a thing where, helping, thousands of people now at this point, it's not only uh what's the best way to phrase it? It's not only fulfilling for me because I know I've helped change so many lives, but it's grown exponentially because by helping them, they've brought other people to me that I've also helped. So it just continues that path. And anytime, I have a specific need or I know someone that has a need in any form of business that I can't fulfill, well, what's the first thing I'm going to do? Touch base with my network, someone in there and say, hey, I know you're good at X, Y, and Z. I'm lacking in it. Can you take care of this person? So the more people you help, honestly, the better it is for you overall. It's not some like hippy dippy stuff, as you mentioned. It's not some BS as I thought at the beginning. It's actually 100% true. And I firmly believe, the more people you help, the better things are for you. I'm not someone who believes in like karma or any of the other stuff, but I do know undoubtedly for a fact from experience, the more people you help, the better life becomes for yourself.
Yeah, part of our like mission statement and culture at Legit is something that I hopefully invented called trickle down happiness. And like
Oh, that's cool.
the way we go
I like the
about it
name of
is like,
that. I
thank
like the
you.
name of that a lot. Yeah, that's
Like,
pretty cool.
the we by us having the site there, it helps freelancers who then help their customers, who help their clients, who help their family. So even like one little $10 sale ends up creating a whole wave of happiness through how, and maybe again that's kind of woo woo, but that's absolutely true, and it's literally part
No,
of
it's
our
it's
goals.
100% true. Like what you've built at Legit undoubtedly has helped thousands, if not tens of thousands of people have their lives change. I mean, I know from, obviously browsing the site Legit and having put up a couple services recently, like I'll see some of the top sellers and I've touched base with some of them, and it's interesting to see where they come from, how they started. I've seen some testimonials people have given for you as well. And it makes me feel good in another way because of what we just mentioned. Like I know I've played a part, small part anyway, and at least helping you, and then seeing all the different people you've helped. It's just as you mentioned, trickle down happiness. I've never thought of it that way before, but it's so true. It totally is. So
I
it's
should probably
very
get that
awesome.
trademarked.
You should, yeah, before someone not listening to this right now does.
Let's see. We got Steve says these guys are SEO legends. Learned a lot from both. Well, thank you, Steve. Patrick says strong motivator. Jim, who is, I don't know if you know that, Gregory, but is the co-founder at Legiit, says
Nice.
absolutely a rising tide lifts all. I think that's a boat emoji.
Yes, it looks like it.
Patrick says love that phrase. Paul says, hey, Gregory, how's things? Not seen you about for a while.
Hey, Paul. Great to have you on here. Hopefully, we'll all be seeing a lot more of me.
And Chris, the really good looking guy, says it puts a link to your Legiit profile there.
Awesome.
So that's, I guess, the next thing we should talk about is you had some success. In the day, back, I don't know if you still do it, but at the time you were really well known for like PBN links, and I guess you moved on to guest post after that. So, and you had a lot of success selling through inferior marketplaces. You still do, and I guess you're starting to do that again. Do you find that to be a good way for business?
Yeah, to be honest with you, it's great for business, but I actually enjoy more the connections I make from it. It's funny because through a lot of the services that I've sold, the people who are purchasing them more often than not are actual other agencies or people who are starting their agencies who, they don't have the resources that I've already accumulated, so they just need help getting access to them. And after a while, they just realize, hey, maybe it's just easier if I pass everything off to him, or maybe, if I refer business to him, then he'll look out for me. It's one of those things like you mentioned before. The more people you help, the more you're able to do things for other people, the more things that they're able to do for you because they want to. It's not forced. It's not something that you're doing with ulterior motives.
Your sound's messing up again. All right. Well, he'll be right back. I don't know why we're having that kind of trouble, but anyway, while we're waiting, let's bring up Gregory's profile because I never miss an opportunity to miss an opportunity. So you can see he's got looks like a couple of guest post services here, and he's just getting started adding some stuff. So, check those out when you have time. Oh, and he's back.
Oh, okay, perfect. I was just messaging you to put me back in the backstage after I changed it. Do I sound better now? I'm sorry.
Much better.
Okay, I'm sorry. What was your question again? I had to go through some changes.
I don't remember. You were talking about marketplace selling and how you're helping those.
And how it's helped other people. Yeah, it's one of those things where it's just genuine. You're helping another business owner increase whatever it is that they're trying to do in their business. And at the end of the day, they always keep that in the back of their mind. So when something comes up, you're looked at as either A, someone who's an expert in a specific field, or B, just someone they know that they can send other people to. So it's definitely great for business. I'm a huge fan of Legiit and Marketplace and everything else because just like you said, I've just started putting in some of my services in there. There's going to be a couple more to come as well. But it's one of those things where I know by helping other people, either one of two things are going to happen. I'm either A, going to get more business, or B, if I don't, that's perfectly fine because I've just helped someone else's business, which in my opinion is even better. So it works out.
From the business side of it, a lot of people can't see past the initial sale too. They might have a $12 or a $15 or a $20 service. I've had people that have been buying those kinds of services from me every single week for 6 years now that I've literally, made a lot of money off of. It's funny that I almost said the number after our conversation earlier, but a lot of money off of. And, even before Legiit, but even on Legiit, I've never paid myself a dime of salary from it other than what I have to keep the tax man happy. But it's because of the sales I'm able to make through it. So it's led me to my training. It's led to high end clients. So don't overlook it is what I'm saying, I guess. Let's see. Tom says, hey, Greg.
Hey Tom. Hey everyone.
Paul says spot on. Alexis, you may be wondering why I pronounce that, and that's because I have an Amazon Echo that Alexis always tries to trick me into saying Alexa and making it talk to us.
That's funny.
Jim says my life is forever changed from buying a $16 service. This, I can't believe I didn't even think of that. This is a great example. I met Jim, who is the head of technology or whatever and co-founder at Legiit, through a $16 service that I sold on that other marketplace. And
That's awesome.
yeah,
Very cool.
thrown into all of this. So
Very cool.
so
Yeah, it's
let's
definitely
talk.
one of those things that shouldn't be. I'm sorry. It's just.
No, you
I
good.
just want to say it's one of those things that should definitely not be overlooked. I personally recommend to everyone who's watching this and everyone who will watch it. You all have something that you can offer someone else, regardless of what it is. There's something that you can offer. So why not put it up on, a legit marketplace? It's one of those things where either you don't get a sale, then it's fine. As well as there's the same spot where.
I hate to interrupt, but we can't understand you again. I'm sorry.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm just gonna put it through the AirPods because I don't know what's happening.
It's weird because it was fine and then mid
Yeah.
sentence. If any of our audio experts have any suggestions, that would be cool too.
Okay, I changed everything through my AirPods. Is that better?
Oh, yeah, that is better.
Okay, I'm just gonna leave it through there. I'll just get this bad boy out the way. Sorry about that.
That's
No, what
all
I
right.
was saying is, everyone who's watching this has at least some form of service that you can offer someone else, whether you can think of something right off the top of your head or not. I highly recommend, like I've told everyone else in the past and everyone I've ever helped train in anything, put your services out there. Go ahead, put something up on the Legit marketplace, and if no one ever buys, guess what? You're in the same spot you're in right now watching this video. But what if people started purchasing? I mean, he just told you an amazing story, which I didn't know, that he was able to find his co-founder just from selling a $16 service, right? And look where he is today. So it's one of those things where if you have a service, why not go ahead and offer it? You never know what's going to happen. I can't even tell you the number of clients, the number of business, the number of connections, the numbers of everything that I've been able to make just off of my services alone.
Mhm.
So I mean, to bring everything even way back, um, excuse me, Chris is very familiar with one of my good buddies, Alex Becker, right? And the way I got in contact with him was through a contact who knew about my services. And we were able to get in contact with one another, and he put us together, and that changed my life drastically from where it was then too. So I recommend just put your services up there. Everyone has something you can offer someone. Why not, right?
We have a guy that sells palm reading that is doing very, very well. So
There you
yeah,
go.
everybody knows
Yeah,
something is my point to
hmm
that story. So
exactly. Yeah.
cool. We'll talk about your specific services here in a couple minutes, but let's take a couple of SEO questions that are rolling in. Jeff says, how would Greg recommend to get started in local marketing?
Sorry, took a sip of water. Yeah, that's a great question. So for local marketing, the first thing I recommend to everyone is take a look at your network, right? I keep speaking about network. If you don't have a big network or any network at all, that's fine. But if you have anyone at all that you know is a business owner, that should be one of the first people that you go for. And I would target them first when it comes to local. Now, if you're going in a frame of mind where you don't know anyone or you don't have any connections and you're just kind of like going cold, so to speak, then I'd recommend going after not the bigger niches that everyone else is going after because they're so competitive. Because just as you mentioned, if you're just starting, you don't want to go after dentists, you don't want to go after lawyers, because then you're going to run into people like myself, Chris, and everyone else who've been doing this for years because we want those type of clients. You shouldn't go after them. Try to find specialty niches, right? You can even niche down as much as you can because you will be able to find niches out there. And you can correct me if I'm wrong, Chris. I haven't browsed it, but I'm almost positive. I'm sure there's some service out there, and if there's not, for anyone watching, you may want to make it. But I'm sure there's some service on Legit where people find niches for other people, where there is a possibility of being able to, like, here's my list of 50 most profitable niches in 2020. There's all those different kind of things that you can search for. And of course, you still have to do your homework. No one's going to give it to you. 'Cause it's like I tell everyone, like, it's one of those things where people would say, hey, how many, PBNs or guest posts or whatever it is do I need to rank for this term? There's no such thing as that formula, because if there was, I promise you, I would not be on this camera right now. I'd be living on my own private island, because I would rank for every profitable term in Google and everywhere else right away. There isn't something like that that exists. Don't believe into that. You still have to do your own homework and research. There's definitely shortcuts, and after the shortcuts are done, you still have to do your own research. So I'm sure there's some service on Legit, and if there's not, for anyone watching, jump on it. Prime area of opportunity on there, where you can recommend niches for other people to get started in. And then after you have that, then start breaking it down even more. Go into Google, look up what kind of questions people are asking for these niches. Maybe there's money in there as well. And that's what I would recommend for local, getting started anyway.
Yeah, a kind of a sweet spot is something where one client is worth a lot to that particular client, but it's not necessarily something with a lot of search. So a lot of SEOs will neglect it. So you can pick it off, and it's a huge ROI to them. Like there was a heavy machinery rental company I used to work with, where one sale was worth $30,000 to them, and the search volume was almost nothing. So it was easy to pick off. But one sale ever, and they've paid me off for 10 years. So
exactly.
So that's just, and now that's a little harder to come by, but if you do your homework, you can find some like that. So just a little tip from me. Not that he asked me. Steven says, hey, Greg, what's the difference between a $16 guest post and a $99 guest post?
I guess it depends on what the person is selling and the quality of it. I mean, it's like most websites out there, and it's also like, in my opinion, when it comes to guest posts, at least for the ones that I put up there, it's all about access. So a lot of time, energy, and effort may have been spent on, like one person offering one guest post service where they have a bunch of different connections that are exclusive to them. So they're able to offer at a premium, just like you would any exclusive club, restaurant, or any hotel, or anything else in the world. And then, of course, you have, your everyday ones where people have more access, or maybe this person is a writer for that website, so they're able to put things up there better. Maybe the metrics are totally different from one another. There's a lot of different factors, to be honest with you, Stephen. But those are the main ones more than anything else, I believe, in my opinion.
One thing I found is that, as someone that resells or guest posts as well, is that I can get a better price than, because I send them a lot, the blog owners, who, by the way, are their own unique breed of people, but I can send them a lot.
They definitely are.
Whereas the random person that messages them will get a higher price, because they've come to realize that that's a great source of revenue for them, and they're starting to want astronomical prices for mediocre sites. So it's almost better to buy through someone like Gregory or me, because they'll give us a better deal, and my margins are pretty thin on guest posts. So
yes, it's same here. And it's one of those things where, you're kind of like grandfathered in, so to speak, at your price. Like, you'll have those people that you've worked with in the past every now and then who'll be like, oh, my spot's gotten much more popular. The price has now changed to X, Y, Z. And then it's like, okay, well, see you later. I guess we won't be doing business anymore. But it's just like you said, it's all about, the hyperinflation of other people contacting them and them thinking their site may be worth more than maybe it actually is too.
Yeah. Patrick says, start where you are. Good advice. He says, I started with local businesses that I was a customer and going straight to the owner to leave a review. Good idea.
That's great. Yeah.
I can't really get away with that where I am, because there's just not a lot of, the economy is pretty small here. So I think not a lot of ROI in the clients locally, although I do keep several because I want to give back to my local community.
For sure.
Jeff says, great. Thanks, Greg.
You're very welcome.
And NMR20067 brings up something I was going to bring up. So thanks for stealing my thunder. He says, hey, Greg, learned a lot about PBNs from you back in the day. Do they still work for you, or have you abandoned that strategy altogether?
Yeah. So this is a subject that's very touchy sometimes in our industry. I personally don't care if it is or isn't. I just give you my honest feedback. It's one of the strategies that still can work. It doesn't work as effectively as it used to. It's also a strategy that I don't do at all anymore when it comes to my clients. My own personal affiliate sites is a whole different story, just because I'm willing to, I guess, gamble and risk more because it's mine. I own it. Especially after the pandemic hit, you definitely don't want to play around too much when it comes to like your clients' websites. So it became a point where they were a little bit less reliable, in my opinion, than getting post on guest posts, just because when you have your own PBN, there's a million different factors, which is also another reason why I personally like guest posts a little better. There's a million different factors, right? So you have to make sure you have it on different hosting. You have to make sure that the person who is registered to is, someone that isn't showing as you. There's a million different factors you need to do just to cover your own ass, so to speak. Whereas it's so much easier to just pay for someone to post it on their website they own. 100% sure they're on a different IP than your other websites. For 100% sure they're on a different host. There's all these different factors you don't need to worry about anymore. So can they still be not effective? For sure. But it's one of those things where I just feel like it's a little bit easier and more beneficial, and I've seen some better gains when it comes to guest posts. But for anyone out there that's still doing PBNs, hey, keep doing your thing. There's not a knock against you at all. I wish you all the best success. But when it comes to my best clients, I don't really touch them with that, if that makes sense.
I still
What's
do
your
and
take?
sell both, but I get what you're saying. And the thing is that most people don't know what the hell they're doing with them, and that's kind of the main reason.
Yeah, exactly.
Because ultimately, if you think about it, there's very little difference between the two, and it's really a blog post. It's just a matter of how it's set up. But I only trust a handful of people, including myself, with them. So you do have to know what you're doing and trust who you're buying them from if you buy them. So I get what you're saying. And that said, one of the reasons I like to bring them up is because it makes some people so mad. I don't get why it's such an emotional trigger for people, but it really is. One person told me that links in general were unethical because they're against Google's terms of service. It's like Google's a fucking corporation. They don't get to decide what's ethical and what's not. They can decide
I would just love to ask that person, okay, well, what have you ever ranked that is ethical? And can I see it? I guarantee you their answer would be no. There's some
Yeah.
people who just like to talk crap and just parrot things just to say it. But yeah, it's just like you said, as long as it's someone that is safe and secure, like for yourself, for example, I know you know what you're doing with PBNs, but that's just one other person than myself. You know what I mean? There's a few others as well, but it's such a small handful that it just, sometimes can become tedious. But thankfully, you are able to market it there on Legiit, so you offer it as a service so people can get it easier without worrying about the hassle and the headache and all that. For me, it just became a issue just because as NMR 20067 to mention, back in the day, it was something where I personally had owned, hundreds, if not thousands of different PBNs, and it was so much upkeep for me to keep up with that it became such a headache that I just couldn't spend time with it. But they do still work, as I mentioned.
Yeah, it's definitely a big investment. I spend thousands of dollars a month just in hosting to make sure that it's all right. So, but it's definitely not unethical. Google's a corporation. They don't get to decide what's ethical and what's not. So, Steven says, if we don't know the person we're buying the $99 guest post from, what questions should we ask about the quality of the guest post? Should we ask to see Ahrefs dashboard of the guest post?
I mean, to be honest with you, if you're getting them from the Legiit marketplace, the first thing I do is take a look at reviews, right? Just like you would for most other businesses. Except for here, I think it's a little bit more of a factor because, I'm trying to think the best way to phrase it. So, if I'm thinking of going to, let's say, a chiropractor, right? The number of stars on his reviews, all of us on here know, and all of us who are watching this in the future know that half or all of those could be complete bullshit. They could have paid a service to get them the reviews, and we don't know if they're actually a good chiropractor. Whereas on the marketplace, the Legiit marketplace rather, I know for a fact that you, Chris, go through and make sure that all of these reviews are legit. I've already seen you make posts from before in the past couple of years of people who are doing anything kind of shady as far as reviews go ahead and get banned. So it's a little bit more held to the chest in the sense of it's going to be more accurate when it comes to these reviews. So I'd go ahead and take a look at people's reviews, see what they're saying in the marketplace. That would be the best way to kind of figure out what's a good guest post and what's not. And if you're going to buy from a brand new seller, which, hey, there's no issue there. I mean, I personally am a brand new seller on the marketplace myself. The kind of questions you should be asking them if they haven't displayed it already in their description would be the most common ones, what's the metrics looking like at the moment if they haven't disclosed them, what kind of links do you accept on there? Because there are some guest post sites that'll just accept links from everywhere, which is fine. There are like news guest posts, for example, right? That they accept, all different kind of posts from all different kind of niches. But let's say you wanted to have one that was specifically in, let's say, the swimming niche, right? If that person doesn't offer it, then you know to move on. It's just kind of boiling down what questions are going to be best for your specific project that you're working on, whether it's yours or your clients. You want to make sure it's the best fit possible. But if anything, to be honest, I'd look at reviews more than anything else if someone's already been selling for a bit.
That, and we also have a pretty active community. So anybody ever use this guy, that kind of thing. That's one of the ways we've tried to differentiate ourselves from some of the publicly traded companies that have, $50 million in venture capital that we're somewhat competing with. So we have an active community and we kind of hold each other accountable too. That's community is a big part of all of my businesses. And that's one of the reasons why. Paul says, if links were not important, it would not be part of any algorithms. Yeah. And like, what's his name? John Mueller will get on Twitter and say that links don't work and stuff like that, but he has a vested interest in telling you that. So, consider the source. Also, another reason to use links is because it makes white hat people really upset. So, and they tend to be very fragile. Dan.
Which is funny, by the way. Sorry, before you get to that, it's funny when you mention the white hat people getting upset about links, because most of their white hat techniques they teach are also at the end getting a link from someone else's website pointing to theirs. So it's just funny.
I also don't get why buying thousands of dollars worth of content is any better or worse than buying thousands of dollars worth of links. Like,
yeah, I agree.
It's such a disconnect, and they tend to be so condescending about it. So I love to needle them a little bit. Dan says, what hosting are you recommending these days for PBNs, Greg? Good to see you again, by the way. I guess you don't do it anymore, so.
Great to see you, Dan. No, I still definitely have PBNs, as I mentioned. I use them for my own personal projects and stuff like that. And like I said, they're still working effectively. I have no problem using them for them. As far as hosting goes, though, I'm still a fan of diversifying to different hosts, not having your eggs all in one basket. I still like Easy Blog Networks a lot as well.
Yeah, me too.
Have a good package on there with them. A good buddy of mine actually owns it, and he's also partners with another good buddy of mine as well. So I know that they know what they're doing, not just because they're my buddies. I have plenty of buddies who have other services that I just won't get into because I know they may not know what they're doing for certain things. These two guys, I know what they're doing, so I have no problem with Easy Blog Networks and all the typical hosts like HostGator, Bluehost, all the other ones. I'll just get a package on every single one of them and kind of diversify it. How about yourself, Chris?
I still use Easy Blog Networks. I have 2 or 3 others I use. I don't really want to drop the dime on some of them because I want to keep, the more people to get on them, the less.
Yeah, for sure. So, the less.
Yeah, but Easy Blog I still use. I still use IP networks a little bit. So one other thing before we move on to the next topic is one thing I like about PBNs versus guest post is that you can mold the post to make it more relevant. The blog post or the guest post, you're kind of at the mercy of the blog owner. But with this, you can put the title in right and the keyword right and all the stuff that we know how to do too. So that's one advantage.
So you have more control over it all for sure.
Yeah. We got a spammer over on Twitch. Alexis says it's awesome how engaged Chris and company are with issues happening on the Legiit platform, like fake review issues. Well, thank you. I actually have a full-time loss prevention manager that looks into things like that. And he's actually on right now, but he has an uncanny skill for spotting people that are doing nefarious stuff. It's mind-boggling to me, the little details he'll pick up on. But, to be completely transparent, we put a lot of time and effort into it, but we've probably missed some. So if you ever see any, you can always report them too. Funny thing is, though, we have some people that like to buy like 30 or 40 things at once, and then they all get done at the same time, and they'll leave a review for each one, and it'll be the same person 10, 20 times in a row, and people are always convinced that that's fake, but it's just somebody who likes to buy from that person. I feel bad when that happens, but like I'm not, so.
Anyway. I actually saw someone ask a question about that you answered in the Legiit group a couple of days ago.
Yeah, like that, and that's come up before, and like I have one guy who's been buying dozens of services from me every week for years, and like there's nothing left creative for him to say in a review. So he always just says perfect. And I've gotten accused of faking my own reviews because of that before. So I haven't quite figured out a good solution to that. So if anybody has suggestions, let me know. Jim says that's why it's legit. That is. Kind of caught up on questions. Why don't we take a look at your profile and you can kind of walk us
Sure.
through what you do?
Okay, sounds good.
That's the one. So we'll start with this one and then we'll go to this one. All right.
Yeah. So, as I mentioned before, over the past couple of years, I've been, I've had many different partnerships, but more than anything else has been connections. So I've reached out to, and my team, not just myself, but my team, we've literally reached out to tens of thousands of websites over the past couple of years, trying to get placements for either our own affiliate sites, for client sites, for ourselves, for testing, for all different kind of things. And I reached out recently after touching base with Chris and excuse me, mentioning I wanted to launch some services on Legiit. I reached out to a couple of the site owners, and some of them have given me permission to go ahead and grant access to their websites through Legiit. So I'm kind of like the third party, so to speak, when it comes to it. And as Chris had mentioned before, some of them are their own unique breed of people. So for every single listing that you'll see of anything that's guest post related when it comes to my profile. Whatever the price is, remember, keep in mind that there is going to be someone that I'm paying first. And then, as you mentioned, it's low margins in the first place. So that kind of goes back into the question asked earlier, what's the difference between a $19 guest post and like a $99 guest post? Well, one of them is for myself, especially when it comes to this particular one that Chris has opened up for the Panda packages, you can see I'm paying the site owner X amount of dollars, and then I'm taking a small profit off of each one. And that's kind of what you see in there. And for this one in particular, and for most of the guest post services, it's going to be where it'll tell you the metrics right away at the beginning. So as you can see at the top of the service, it tells you the metrics are, I believe, 55 plus for DA and DR. For this site, and for each different one, there'll be different metrics. Just like he has open a different tab, another one is plus 40 and plus 35, but they're all going to be different sites that I have access to. More often than not, they're sites that I have exclusive access to because they either A, did me a favor and allow me to open this up to all of you guys on Legiit, or B, they're not taking anyone else in because they have enough people that they're already working with. And I'm just kind of doing it as a third party where I'm essentially just asking them to get placements on their website for me because they think it's a client of mine, if that makes sense. So that's kind of what the main thing is when it comes to these two guest posts more than anything else. The metrics is what's going to separate all of them. They'll also have different and that's another reason too when it comes to price as well. Like you'll see these two gigs, even though one is more quote unquote powerful as far as being 55 plus and the other one's 55 plus, they both start at $99 because once again, it all boils down to what I need to pay the actual site owner to get everyone's placement on there in the first place. But I've kind of gone in with a fine tooth comb, dug into everything that they offer, and just ensure that it's as safe and secure as possible. Because as I mentioned before, these are all sites that I have access to because I either place my own stuff on there, my client stuff on there, and I've done my own checks on them to make sure they're as legit, funny enough, as possible. So I figured, hey, why not offer some of these packages on here as well after Chris and I spoke.
What about excuse me? What about like niches? Do you have a pretty? I'm sure you have a pretty wide variety of those, right?
Yeah, so for that one you have open right there, that one is as I mentioned before, a news themed guest post where they kind of post on a for a bunch wide variety of topics. There's going to be about 10 more different guest post services I'll have launching on Legiit throughout this week, and some of them are going to specifically state at the top what niches they're in. So for example, I have one that is specifically going to be dedicated to art. That's all that the blogger blogs about is art specifically. So there will be one up there that'll say art niche only. So if it doesn't specifically list the niche, it can kind of handle most niches. And obviously, if someone places an order, we can just go ahead and touch base and say, hey, it doesn't work for your niche. Would you either A, like us to get you a placement somewhere else, or B, would you like us to just go ahead and cancel this transaction? But if it doesn't list a topic at the very top, you should be good to go. Also, just take a look at the FAQ for all of them. It'll answer most of your questions as well. And yeah.
I like this one, the Moz spam score one, because I have almost this exact same line.
You know what's funny? It's funny that you mentioned it. So I, I was going through some of your stuff earlier today, and I realized one of my VAs had literally verbatim, which I need to speak to them, cut and paste some of your FAQ into the ones I had them launch in here. So like my spam score specifically is one that is copied verbatim. So it's funny that you point that out right away.
Well, no wonder I
It's
like it
because you
then.
recognized it, yeah.
It's true though.
Exactly.
That's like the
Yeah.
most worthless metric I've ever seen in my life. So
Yeah, I don't understand why people ask for, low spam score. I mean, do you know anyone that doesn't get spam phone calls? I don't. You
right.
know what I mean? So you're always going to have a website that gets spam links sent to it, whether they ask for it or not. That's just the nature of spam in general. So my spam score means nothing in my opinion
Right. Like
and
I could be an asshole and just
experience.
fire up GSA at any site that I don't like, and that
Yeah,
would
exactly.
skyrocket their spam score, but that doesn't have any
Yeah,
impact. So
exactly.
let me bring Steven says, if we have a roofing client, will you find a roofing guest post versus if we have a dental client, can we just trust that you'll find a dental guest post?
Stephen, if you're asking for me specifically, just as I mentioned, some of the guest posts on there will actually say if they're niche specific, and if they're broader, like as far as they can take a bunch of different niches, you can go ahead and feel free to order on there. And if there is any issues, obviously myself and the team will let you know, and we could kind of touch base on that specifically. But more often than not, everything is fine unless it says otherwise at the top. Like I mentioned, I'm having one launching later rather that's going to be art specific. So if someone orders and there's no way to fit anything art related in their niche, we're just going to let them know, sorry, we're not going to be able to do it. But
Okay. Yeah, what I like to do is I don't have the specific category, and let's face it, there's not a lot of dental blogs, for
yeah,
example. You just put on a news themed one and then just make the post as relevant as possible and get your relevance
exactly.
that way.
Yep.
All right. Jim says you get what you pay for. If you go to the store and buy hot dogs, expect it to taste like steak, you're going to be disappointed. Invest in yourself.
Very, very true.
It's very true. Unfortunately, it's not something that everyone seems to really get, but that's a conversation for a different day. Steven says, do you show us the guest post after we've paid and our article has been posted?
Yeah, absolutely. You get a link directly to it.
Yeah.
There's no reason why you shouldn't get a link to your guest posts,
Yeah.
at least in my service anyway. You get it, you're able to go ahead and send links to it if you wanted to. You're able to tell your client about it, which is what most people do. You're able to do all kinds of things with it for sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, you
It's not
definitely
like a
get the full
PBN
link.
where you need to keep it
Yeah,
private. So,
exactly. With a PBN, you want to keep that safe and secure. But when it comes to the guest posts, like I mentioned, like these are blog owners that are posting all the time, either their own articles that they've written, ones that they're getting from people like myself. So there's nothing wrong with sharing it at all because different people are aware of the website. Like these websites have hundreds, sometimes thousands, 10,000s, hundreds of thousands of people, and as far as traffic goes, going to their website. So a lot of people know about it. Whereas your PBN, as you mentioned, you want to keep that safe and secure and on the down low.
yeah. I get people to get mad about the PBN side of that sometimes. And I'm like, I've had too many people say, can I have
Yeah,
the link so I can power it up with the Money Robot? I'm like, it's already powered. That's the whole point. And no,
yeah.
no, you can't have the link.
I used to have people get upset with me a lot for it too, but it's one of the things where I tell them, what do you value more? You value just like your ego, I guess, knowing what the URL is, or do you value the safety and security I'm giving to every single person to protect their websites and their clients' websites more than
Mhm.
anything else? Just no comparison between the two.
Right. Uh, Mod says, hi, Gregory, how to get the client that can pay the higher amount for the guest post. So I guess he's saying how to get higher paying clients is how I interpret that.
Okay, so one of the weird things about me is I memorize people's faces, and you could correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure Ahmad is one of the sellers on Legit as well, and actually
Yes.
does not too bad. Okay, yeah, I thought I recognized the image. Great to speak with you as well, Ahmad. As far as getting a client to pay a higher amount for the guest posts, I mean, it's all about like anything else, right? So like if I had a club on this street and you had a club next door, what would make someone want to pay more? Well, exclusivity, right? So, can everyone access the club? If so, you can't charge as much money. Do you have certain bells and whistles? Meaning, like, is there a VIP section in your club? You know what I mean? Like, what separates your guest post versus others? Once you figure that out, then you'll be able to charge more money, if that makes sense. If you need me to expand on it more, feel free to drop a question, let me know. But hopefully that kind of clears it up for you. I'm interested in your feedback as well, Chris.
Well, the club analogy is completely lost on me, but the point is very good. Yeah, just find a way to distinguish yourself and offer a higher quality. Like, and I'm not saying these aren't guest posts, but sometimes guest posts on stuff like Medium, people sell stuff like that, which is nothing wrong with, but it's not what I think of as a guest post. So that's one way you can distinguish it, is to have legitimate, see what I did there? Legitimate actual blogs that you've done the time to do the outreach for. So that's just one way. Russell Freddie Edmonds says, Greg, I think the name package Gandalf should be changed with Frodo. You shall not pass competitors.
So you're saying in verse though. Yeah, that's a good one. I like that.
All right, we are caught up on questions. Let me grab the link here again for everybody because I want to make money. Surprised how often admitting that you want to make money makes people like you.
Yeah,
Most people
at the end of the day, isn't that like everyone's goal in life, at least in my opinion, should be to better your life and the people you care about. And one of the true ways to do it is helping others and making as much money as you can, for sure.
Yeah.
Money's not the answer, as they say, but it sure as hell helps a lot.
Yeah.
For a lot of things. Yeah.
Definitely. All right. So we got about 10 minutes left. First of all, I'd like everyone to take a moment to thank Gregory for taking the time to join us today. And that will buy me some time to think of something else to talk about. But it will also, it's true. Like, you know, everybody's busy. So it's cool that you guys take the time to hang out with us. And it's cool that Gregory took the time to do it. So please thank Gregory for hanging out with us today. If you can, of course, check him out on Legiit at Legiit.com/Gregory. I don't know why I had to look at that. It's like as easy as it could possibly be, but that's one thing.
Well, I appreciate your time, Chris. I just want to tell you, I appreciate your time, you having me on here. I know you have a million other things going on. And I appreciate everyone that's on here as well. I mean, any of you could literally be doing anything else in the world, but you're on here with us, and I truly appreciate that. So thank you.
Sound like Jay-Z there for a second. You could have been anywhere in the world.
Yeah. It's the truth.
And now I sound about as white as I possibly can, but Steven says, thanks for your help answering questions today, Greg. Last time I saw you was with Cotton in Orlando. OMG. I was at that. That's the only event I've ever gone to because I don't really like going to events, but that's the one I went to. Jim says, what's your favorite Funko and why? I assume that's the toys. I don't know what a Funko is.
Yeah. These are all Funko Pops. My son gave me one a couple years ago, and it just triggered something where I just became a little obsessed with them. My favorite one that I have would probably be my Mr. Rogers or Notorious B.I.G., which is on this side right here.
Mm-hmm.
My Biggie and my Mr. Rogers are probably my two favorites.
That's quite diverse. Biggie and Mr. Rogers don't end up in the same sentence a lot.
Well, yeah, you got Biggie, Mr. Rogers. You have my man Bob Ross over here, standing in between Lil Wayne and Eminem. He's listening to them rap. So, yeah.
Eclectic. So, Patrick says, thanks, Greg, for your insights.
Thank you for being here, Patrick. Appreciate it.
Russell Freddie Edmonds, who I always pronounce his name that way, if you're wondering why, says, thanks, Chris and Gregory. This is probably a GIF. For some reason, they don't show up in StreamYard. So I'm just going to assume that was funny. Brian says, Gregory, great to see you. Come over to the dark side.
Hey, Brian.
I don't know what that means, but
it might be because of Darth Vader. Oh, I keep forgetting it's reverse. Darth Vader's right behind my head.
I'll try to assume it was that and not take it personally because I don't want to be considered the dark side. So anything you would like to talk about before we wrap this up? Anything else you want to get into?
There's nothing that immediately comes to mind. You know, I just wanted to obviously thank you again for having me. I also did want to say on a personal note, I'm just super, I mean, I can't say it sounds wrong saying the word proud, but and that's my Roomba talking in the background now, but it sounds weird to say proud, but I am to see all the things that you've done and that you built, especially with Legiit. Like I know and remember when you were first getting everything started, and even before you started it, and to see what it's grown into today, it's just amazing. It's an amazing, vibrant community full of great people, and just seeing that is just really fulfilling to me, if that makes sense. So it's definitely great to see, and I just continue to look forward to all the great things that you're doing, especially with your new link shortener service, which I know will give Bitly a run for its money and everything else. So I'm just excited to see where you keep going and where everyone else keeps going as well who's here.
Well, thank you. Laru, by the way, if you need some graphics, hit him up. He's mascot guy on Legiit, does a great job. Says it's not about SEO, but when you change day job to your own boss, what kind of barriers did you have? That's an interesting question. What were some challenges you had when you quit and started working for yourself?
It's the same challenges that I have all the time, to be honest with you, and it's about staying focused. It's one of those things where you no longer have anyone telling you what to do. You no longer have to show up at a specific time to a specific place. There's no longer a specific work that needs to get done because a boss is checking it. You're relying on yourself, and you need to keep yourself accountable. And in my opinion, at least for me personally, it's been one of my biggest struggles I've had my entire career of doing this. And I know it's one that will continue to happen, but I'll continuously get better at it. And it's just all about setting up a routine. And at first, I was very resistant to routine, to be honest with you. I was like, screw that. I'll wake up whenever I want to, and I'll start work whenever I want to. But then it became a thing where I realized, well, am I doing that because I'm trying to rebel, saying screw the system? Because most people's dream is to just wake up whenever they want and do whatever they want. But at the end of the day, I still don't have a boss anymore. So why am I not just waking up at the same time I used to for a boss, but this time I'm doing it for myself? And why wouldn't I want to work as hard as I used to for a boss that I hated? I'm doing it for myself. All the money is going into my pocket. All the hard work is being done just for me. Whether I succeed, whether I fail, it's all on me. So it became a thing of just having routines more than anything else. I mean, I have a board over here which is nailed up on the wall, but just looking at it, I can tell you I have a list of things that are my daily priorities to get done. And next to it, I have a number written. And that number, and I've spoke about it a couple times in other interviews before, but the number next to it is like blocks. So I know for this, and you could designate what blocks, whatever time period you want. I did them in 15-minute increments. So I know if it has a 2, that means for half an hour, I am locked in 100% on this task that I'm working on, regardless of what it is. And I don't let anything disturb me for it. I'm kind of anal about it, where I'll set a timer for every single one. So, I'll grab my phone and say, set a timer for 30 minutes. I know once it goes off, I'm moving on to the next thing. And I just continue to move forward. It's all about, in my opinion, having a routine for you, because when I didn't have one, I wasn't as productive as I am now with one, if that makes sense. How about yourself, Chris?
Yeah, I mean, I don't have it regimented quite like that, but I got an office because I found that helped my routine a lot, as opposed to working from home, which that went to shit for a year, but that's another story. But coming in and having to get up and go in and then work for 12 hours or 8 hours or 18 hours, just depends on what's going on, has helped me a lot to really set up a routine for myself. So that's how I managed it. And then I've had an assistant before. I just got another one start soon. So that helps a lot too, because I almost need a boss, to be honest. Like sometimes I need someone to say, why the fuck didn't you get this done today? They're not quite like that, but that's basically what it boils down to. So as far as challenges, when I started, one other thing I found was other people in my life tended to think I had more free time than I did because I didn't have a job. I put that in air quotes because obviously you do, but people that hadn't done it didn't get it and didn't understand why you couldn't just stop in the middle of the day to go do whatever. So fortunately, those people are no longer in my life. But
I agree. That's a huge one. Now that you mention it, that's been a big one, especially when it comes to relationships. Like my girlfriend that I've been with for a couple of years now, at the beginning, like you mentioned, it was a little difficult for her because she'd be like, "Oh, well, you're your own boss, and I'm off today, so let's hang out." I'm like, "That's not how it works. I still have work I need to get done today." So yeah, I agree with you.
Danny says, I got on late. What are you doing these days? Client SEO work, affiliate sites, besides offering, I guess that means backlinks.
I'm a Funko Pop salesman, as you can tell behind me. That's what I'm up to. No, I had mentioned it earlier. I'm focusing a bit more on client SEO than most things, and I'm still have a focus on everything else, affiliate. But I'm also launching a lot of different services on Legiit, hence the conversation with Chris right now.
you can check out at legit.com/Gregory. Thank you for having me use an easy username. Some people ask me why they're not getting sales and their username is like XQ48. I'm like, nobody can remember that. So it helps. Russell Freddie Edmonds says, haha, yeah, totally agree. I've got a Trello board dedicated to my routines. See, I've tried different tools like that, and I end up spending as much time putting it into the tool as I do actually executing the stuff in the tool. So that doesn't work for me, but I know a lot of people that it does work for. So
yeah, the digital route doesn't work for me either. Like you mentioned, I'll stay there all day. That's why I have it on a whiteboard. I just write it, I can erase it, keep putting it back. If it's digital, like you said, I'll be there all day trying to perfect stuff. But everyone has different ways that work for them. It's just finding that groove.
Yeah, exactly. LaRue says, thanks, Chris and Gregory. Thank you, buddy.
Thank you.
And one more time, that is legit.com/Gregory. He's got a couple services up there now, and we'll have more soon. Pleased to have you on board. We got 1 minute left. Anything else you want to talk about?
No, nothing else really comes to mind. I mean, as I mentioned before, thanks so much for having me on here, and thank everyone for spending your time with us. I mean, it's been a great hour. I can't believe it's actually been an hour. It feels
it went
way less. Yeah, very, very quickly. But I'm just excited to continue to see the growth of Legit, excited to see the growth of everyone else. And as I mentioned before, if you don't have a service on there, what are you waiting for? There's something we're all skilled at. I mean, and of course, everyone is well aware of Fiverr, right? They've been around for years. I remember before I even got into digital marketing, I saw someone was recording greetings of themselves where they lived. They lived in like Switzerland. So they would go to like where the landmarks would be, for lack of a better term, in Switzerland, and just record greetings for people there. And those people would send it to their family members. I mean, everyone has something like that near them. You're always able to offer something on Legit. There's nothing you can't think of you can't offer. So why not offer it? And for anyone out there who's looking to kind of get into having your own business, well, this is a great way to get it started. This is a way to make money outside of your day job. So why not go ahead and do it? And you never know where it takes you. I mean, Chris and his partner, $16 gig. Look where they are today, right? So you never know.
Yep. And all right, we'll wrap it up. Programming note, I will be back tomorrow as we continue our Build an Agency series. So if you've been following along with that, continue to do so. It's been a lot of fun. And most importantly, figure out what you want out of life and go out and get it, because you owe it to yourself and you owe it to the world. Thank you, Gregory. Thank you, everybody. I'll see you all again soon.
Thank you. Take care.